My name's Patrick Foley and this is my review of Shed for UK Film Review. This is a very short film. I'm running at about 4.5 minutes long, about two neighbours somewhere in rural United States who get into a very bizarre argument over a shed. One of the neighbours, Gilbert, played by Ryan Crepack, who owns the shed and the shed is in his garden, has an interaction with his other neighbour Arthur, played by David Esposito. When he finds him admiring the shed, Arthur seems to believe that despite the shed being in Gilbert's garden, that the shed is actually his, and that it must have moved there somehow. He uses a photograph on his phone as seemingly as evidence to show that the shed belongs to him and is his property, which Gilbert takes offence to. As the pair begin to argue, the debate becomes more heated, Gilbert's wife becomes involved, and what should seemingly be a pretty basic domestic squabble emerges into a much more intense and comedic conflict, shall we say. Shed packs a lot into its short runtime. It's a genuinely quite sort of surreal little film. It's got a lot of funny moments, but also has a lot of moments which makes you sort of think more abstractly on the concept of things like ownership and property. It's got a very kind of Always Sunny in Philadelphia comedic vibe to it. There's sort of echoes of things like Curb Your Enthusiasm as well, using that kind of uncomfortable, unusual mix on human interaction to tell this rather strange, bizarre story. It sets up a kind of monotonous existence. It's shot in black and white and sort of filmed very basic scene staging in the initial beginning of the film, and sort of builds what seems to be a kind of basic neighbourly squabble, but then gets a lot more experimental, a lot more visually interesting as things sort of just begin to build and build into a more sort of climactic and comedic outcome. David Esposito and Ryan Crepack are listed as both the directors of the film as well as the two stars, and you can tell that there's a very healthy chemistry between the pair. They both perform their roles really well. Esposito carries a sort of mixture of cynicism and almost an unsettling nature to his character as you start to question what his true motives are for trying to convince that the shed belongs to him. And while there are some rougher edges that you'd expect with a lower budget homemade production, there are enough comedic edges and enough dry humour there to definitely get a few laughs out of the audience, even in the short runtime. So I would recommend Shed for anyone who wants a quick laugh, but also likes a kind of philosophical, theoretical edge to the comedy. The comedy sort of doesn't just go for the cheap option, it kind of goes for the more abstract efforts to build humour. David Esposito as the writer and himself and Ryan Crepack as the directors have done a great job here in giving a short little bite, a little taster of what they can do both with their acting and their writing ability.